Hello. We'll call this meeting to order while I get this all loaded up so that we have a presentation here this evening. I'll just kind of explain what happens here. Once a year, we don't have a board chair for about 5 minutes. And so we start this meeting off, and then we will start by getting a board chair. People will make nominations, and then the board chair will take over the meeting and get a vice chair and so forth. And so we'll end up doing that. So we'll start with board organization, and I need a motion for a nomination for a board chair. So we have a nomination for Lisa. Do we have a second? Okay, Christine seconds. All in favor of nominating or selecting Lisa Wiley as this year's 2026-2027 board chair? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No abstentions. Passes 7-0-0. Lisa?
Thank you, everybody. And we need a nomination for a vice chair, please. Okay, Christine nominating Chris Ratcliffe. Is there a second? Sandra seconded. All in favor of Chris Ratcliffe for vice chair? Say aye. Opposed? Abstain? Passes 7-0-0. Thank you. Are there any changes to the agenda tonight? Christine, do you remember them?
Yes, I would like to move the robotics presentation up to, did we decide when? Now?
How about following the student representative
Okay.
report?
I'd like to move the robotics presentation up to after the student representative's report.
Okay. And do we want to move
Yeah.
public comments?
And we're going to move public comments to after the student superintendent's report, and then at that point we will have, after public comments, we will have board discussion.
Thank you, Christine. All in favor of the changes to the agenda, go ahead and say aye. Okay. Opposed? Abstain? 7-0-0. So that puts us now to our student representative report. Hello, Dante. And would you mind terribly reintroducing yourself to the board, because we have new board members?
Hello, I am Dante Eck from Coney Middle High School, and I am a junior that is attending the school. I'm going to keep this presentation fairly short so I can leave the rest to the professionals, but I think I can establish that a majority of the students are worried about the budget. The result of the budget voting has a lot of students worried about the security of their athletic activities and extracurriculars, general interest clubs. And the concerns over the budget are affecting the general CMHS community as a whole And it's not just students worrying about the budget, but it's teachers as well. It's become somewhat of a sensitive topic around the district because we don't know exactly what is going to be cut, and no one wants to cause more of an issue than this has already become. And I think I can speak for the whole community as a collective when I say that we all hope everyone can work together to persevere through this moving forward.
Thank you very much for that. All right. Does the board have any questions for our student representative, Dante? Okay, thank you. All right, now we are going to head into the superintendent's report. Oh, running into robotics first. Thank you. I even did it. So, what we have is is Laurel McKenzie, coach for our robotics team that is doing amazing. And Laurel, you have some guests with you as well. Where are you? Right there. So there's a microphone here. Would you rather have this one or? Yeah. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. We are Team 17630 Hot Wings from representing Conant Middle High School. I'm Autumn.
My name is Kimmy.
I'm Dallas.
I'm Aiden. I'm Creed. We are here tonight to request your permission to compete in the first Tech Challenge Canada Cup. This year, we have seen phenomenal growth for our team. We welcome 6 new members who had no prior experience. However, through teamwork and countless hours of critical thinking, we overcame many challenges, successfully rising to overcome those challenges. As a result, at the state championship tournament, competing against 29 teams from New Hampshire and southern Maine, we placed 8th.
This huge milestone has earned us an invitation to the first Tech Challenge Canada Cup, an incredible opportunity that extends beyond the competition fields of New Hampshire. By attending, we will represent Conant Middle High School internationally, experience what it is like to be on a college campus, have the ability to build a more competitive robot, and be exposed to new cultures and more diverse engineering perspectives.
We have proven we can unite as one to build and program a robot. Now, we humbly ask you for this opportunity to improve our team. We deeply appreciate you for your time and consideration for the future of FIRST Robotics at Conant Middle High School. Are there any questions?
All right, so we are looking for an approval for you guys to go to Canada. That is so cool. All right, we'll take a motion.
Yes, it's self-funded, and we have like $6,000 to $7,000 in funds right now. And if you pass this, we have plans to raise more money.
Thank you, Christine, for the motion. Is there a second? Judy seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstain? Could we please have John Stone, Helen Stone, and Laurel stand up? Thank you. These are the coaches for the Hawk Wings group. And say it again, Laurel? And John Leone. These are our coaches, and you guys are going to get an applause. That is so exciting. Well done, you guys. Congratulations. All right, now on to the superintendent's report.
Hello? Great. So my report tonight is, we had discussed whether we were going to do a separate superintendent's report or go and wait, till down and later on in this agenda to speak about the impact of the vote that took place last week and the outcome. I think that my goal here tonight is to put some information out. I don't think that decisions will likely be made this evening, but certainly the board is capable of listening and deliberating and so forth going forward. But what I have here is a scenario that is not a recommendation. I'm not recommending anything that I have presented here today or will present here today. I think this is a difficult presentation to make, but I'll start by showing what the background lens is. So we're going to start off with some assumptions about the 26-27 school district structure. Some financial considerations, just as a reminder, because while there was a default budget that is a little bit over $1.5 million, that is not actually the number that we're looking at tonight. And then one path, one concept that we could choose, and certainly if through conversations other areas are seen as to be a desire to move forward in a different direction, there will have to be some trade-outs as to how that would take place. And I'll explain what that would look like. So the slides you're about to see, and this is not a long presentation, about 3-4 slides. It assumes the district needs to set a new baseline or a new normal. So we've been making a lot of progress in many areas for quite some time. Some of what you're going to see is going to look like, oh, we're going back to structures we used to have maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. It assumes the district needs to maintain educational structures and opportunities that are comparable to those provided in surrounding districts. So one, just because there is what people consider an educational experience for their kids, a basic education experience for their children, and also as we know that whether it passes this year or potentially in the next year or two, open enrollment is going to come, this school district is going to want to be able to at least be in alignment with those around, and maybe look to start partnering as well in different ways to make sure that programming can take place. Not just our district, but other districts too. And then this assumes that in keeping various, in the choices that would be presented here today, if they were to be selected as this is the path to move forward, this assumes the continuation of English language arts improvement, mathematics improvement. There are plans for, once again, there's a K-8 implementation. We're in the middle of that, of ELA. We know I have a principal and an assistant principal I think down south at the National Conference, as that's a step to the next 3 or 4 years of math implementation and support over at the elementary level, and also to impact the middle school as well. And so, and then the MTSS, what that means, for those who don't know what the acronym means, is multi-tiered systems of support. That's both for academics, mostly in the area of English language arts and mathematics, but also MTSS-B, which is for behavior and wellness for individuals. And those are systemic district-wide initiatives that are considered to be best practice that all districts would want to implement. So in order to do that, however, it takes time for teachers to be able to have the time to look at data, to analyze data, to have conversations, and to make strategic choices and movement, and then to make sure that the entire district is doing it in unison. And to do that, you need to have some time. And so this assumes that we're going to keep those structures for teachers in the schedules. Just a little bit of information for those coming to this with not much information about what's taken place. On March 10th, the default budget was passed, or the proposed budget was not passed. It was about 68, 69 votes between the two towns together. And what that did was it gave us a $31,991,442 budget for next year. That's $1,508,558 below the school board's proposed budget. School board's proposed budget was to include some things that had been removed before, and there are many things that are lost, and there's about 1.2 million of changes that that have been gone out of that, but we were able to keep certain programming to go on this year through use of different funds. So we have to consider what that's going to look like. However, the proposed budget that the board passed was done so with a $300,000 reduction to what we were able to present and know as expenses. So there was automatically, even if the budget passed, there was going to be a $300,000 reduction of some sort within the budget. So we were looking at a 1.8 million, just a little bit above that reduction within the operating budget. Now, sometimes, and we even usually have this conversation at the board level during the budget season, is there anything we can do feasibly now with this year's budget to say purchase, one thing that we've been able to do that we always can be able to use within the current school year is like Chromebooks or something of that nature. Because of the school care expense that we've talked about quite a bit, which gave us an added unbudgeted expenditure or to-be expenditure of $585,000 around there. We have paid some of that. We have to pay the rest by July 15th. We still are, and we did not put that into the default budget or the operating budget numbers, and so we were working and are still actively working on securing those funds right now, cutting off spending to various line items and so forth, to be able to, by the end of the year, in this year's budget, pay the $390,000 that still needs to be paid for that. And we're on track to do that as of right now, but to be able to look at, do we have other funds to offset anything? That is very unlikely at this point in time. Sometimes at the end of the year, we get different types of revenue streams that come in that were unexpected from the state that come in a little higher, but at that point, that's used to offset taxes or for the board to say we need to keep these funds in our fund balance retention that we can, up to 5% of the net assessment. Another bullet point here, as sometimes you hear people talking about, well, we can cut this item and we can cut that item, and there are some cuts that can be made in supplies or subscriptions or things of that nature. Sometimes technology. We were able to, Mike Cotton did a great job this year in utilizing the existing budget to enter into a lease agreement for copiers, which is, copiers are actually very expensive to get new ones and to keep the budget flat. So that's ongoing right now, but using this year's funds and not increasing the budget for next year. But 70 to 80% in my time here, between 70 and 80% of the budget has been staffing. It's about 72% of the budget is staffing right now. And so you're going to see when we look at reductions, we are certainly looking at programs, and we're looking at staff cuts, over 20 individuals at different parts of the organization. While the 95,000 on the bottom of this slide is important to note just for your own reference, the average teacher cost is around 95 right now, because we're not using exact numbers because we don't have the exact path forward. We're using these rounded estimates right here. What that means, what does $95,000 mean? It doesn't mean that someone's getting a salary of $95,000. When you see dollar amounts on the budget documents, they usually include, or in this case, they include salary benefits, and that's New Hampshire retirement contributions that the school district pays for. They used to pay a lot less, but the state waived its obligation on that and pushed everything down to the schools and to the taxpayers. There's health benefits, and depending on what someone chooses as a plan, whether it's a one-person plan, a two-person plan, or a family plan, those are very different costs. And so when it all comes averaged out, one teacher their position alone might be $150,000. Another individual might be $74,000. In the middle of that, when you put all of them together, it's about $95,000 as healthcare continues to increase in costs for everyone. So the purpose of our work here is actually not making decisions that are going to lower tax rates. Most decisions, when you cut expenditures, do that. I wouldn't say cut tax rates, but slow tax increases. But some of these we'll talk about, they do receive revenue for them. And so there are some relatively tax neutral items here, but they are nonetheless expenditures or expenses that we have to budget. And when the school district, when the town, the people, the voters of the community vote for a budget, that is the budget that we use. And so unless there's unanticipated revenue, and there are definitions of what that looks like, we have to abide by that budget and not overexpend it, which means we need to set everything so that that number, that budgeted number, almost like a budget cap in a sense, that budgeted number is capped at a specific spot. So remember, we are needing to get around that 1.8 million somehow. And that's not simply just done by removing what was in the proposed budget, because there were some things that were in the proposed budget that actually maybe we need definitely to have. And then there are some things that are in the written default budget because of how everything worked last year that we still need, but might in the whole scale of what is perhaps the most essential, might not be considered, depending on your view, the most essential. And that's why I started off with those assumptions of what is happening here. These are not, again, recommendations. When I sat down with the administration, and I have administrators here today, some are online. Like I said, they're over in another state right now at the National Math Conference. These are nothing here is what anyone wants. But some of these things are easier to let go than others. The assistant superintendent, that was posed for a variety of reasons. The district does not have a facilities director or manager, doesn't have a curriculum director or manager. It doesn't have several things. Through the years, the SAU has been cut over and over and over again, and those do fall on a couple individuals, and those individuals can do the job. It takes a lot to do that, but for the purpose of sustainability and longevity, there needs to be a set structure developed for that SAU at some point that's going to be sustainable. So we remove that. The position doesn't exist, so it won't exist again. An elementary assistant principal. This is going backwards to a time when we did have one elementary assistant principal that would go to both locations. This is not something that is required by law to have an assistant principal at an elementary school. It depends upon the numbers of kids. And so getting by with one in this case, though not ideal, and it does hinder other ongoing operations, this is something that we felt would be a number that would need to be put up here for conversation. And this position actually isn't, the reason why it's red, it's not in the default because of how all the money moved last year. We kept the funding in the schools at the expense of the SAU last year is what we did, hoping that we were going to be able to put some support back in and keep things in the schools. We're at a spot where we are going to have to remove from the school at this point in time. CMHS teachers 3, roughly 285,000. That's a rough number. One English language arts teacher, and that actually you're going to see as a trade-off to gain another English. There's some adds to this as well after I talk about the cuts because of where the individuals are. We went this year and had we thought, looking at the numbers, we were going to be A-okay, cutting a position in the middle school, and that turned out to not be correct. And so we've been able to help with the middle school with the second semester, but we need to get a more permanent position in there for English language arts at the 6th grade level, and to do some 7th grade work as well. When you look at these cuts, this allows us to make sure that all the classes that kids have classes in all of these areas. It will mean that the high school, with some of these, especially these high school, middle school cuts, if they go through, the administration is going to have to come back to the board and represent the course of studies and the likelihood of certain courses being offered. Certainly, the majority of those AP classes that were going to be added are, while I believe we're going to be able to add maybe one, I don't think we're going to be able to add all of them, and depending on how this year goes, this hiring season goes, and people, their choices and so forth, it may mean some difficulties in other areas. But they're going to need some time to put that together and present to the school board and to the community. We were hoping to be able to progress in that area. For elementary teachers, I'll present some slides later on. We talked about this at budget season. Again, not desirable. The number 4 is because it still keeps us in the board's policy of in the locations where the class sizes are, but you're going to see some class sizes that are going to be high should this go through. This school district has typically wanted and the community has supported class sizes that have been around that 17-to-1 ratio, sometimes a little lower, sometimes a little higher. And while in one school it still can work a little bit, it will make a difference in the other school, and you'll see. The Little Oriole Center. This one, and I've had a lot of personal conversations with people explaining what the Little Oriole Center is versus what preschool is or what pre-K is. They are not the same. The Little Oriole Center is a paid-for center for early childhood learning or childcare for individuals who work in this school community. When we first put it in place, we were actually hoping to develop a model that would be able to spread into the community and support the whole community in a way that was going to be able to do this at a lower cost for families, because childcare, as we know, is a national crisis. The state of New Hampshire and the governor certainly has talked about it and knows that that's a need, and families, are spending a lot of money in these areas and have to make some hard choices. We have seen that in the last 3 to 4 years, we've been working very strategically to retain staff. This was a priority of one of our former board members, Kim McCoyne, who just consistently, we have to retain. She was right, because you can't make forward progress if you're constantly having a revolving door of educators. And for quite some time, and history would show from before my time here, there was about anywhere between a 15 and 25% revolving door of staff at various levels. We have not had that in the last few years. This has been a very, very stable place, and according to individuals we know in various organizations, teacher organizations, administrator organizations, and so forth, understand that we are in a unique place within this half of the state at least. That unfortunately is likely to be impaired a little bit, at least this time around. And the Little Oriole Center helped with retention, and we know that from just having conversations with people who put their children in there. And by and large, it's a budget revenue neutral program. The way that is that we try to keep the payment of about, between under 10% of a person's income. 8% is really a target, but we're not quite there. And we've raised the rates every single year for the individuals who use it. But we know from looking at trend lines that other revenue tends to come in high and come in low, but it usually balances out. So overall, all our revenues cover the expenses that they're supposed to be covering, and we've been able to do that. That said, it's a $170 budgeted item. There are expenses of $170, and next year maybe, around, it could be a little bit lower by 5,000 or higher, but that's roughly what it is. And so when you think about if you keep something like that, which might be something that, we need to discuss, but that is going to result in having to find $170,000 in another area. And so what else would be lost? It would likely be staffing. So it's hard when you have a very innovative and statewide recognized program that has been shown to be effective to retain staff, and then in order to keep that, you have to cut staff. So that's a very difficult place to be. This next one, yeah, if you can do that.
Is this on now? Okay, thank you. All right. We have a preschool program for ages 3 and 4. And we have, since COVID, put in a way of of having that nearly universal. We used to, for very many years, have long waiting lists to get into this. So the program is for the funding. It's generally special ed funding for some of it, and so in that sum, we also need to have mainstream students. So there's very small classes of those groups. After COVID, we lost a budget, and we were going to say, what are people looking for? And one of the things people were looking for, this was one of the main areas, because we always had a wait list, and we said, you know what, we can find the funding to make more preschool rooms. And so we increased that for the last few years so that we haven't had wait lists. And we've had an incredible response to this program. It's been very supported by the communities. And it's also proven to reduce the need for support staff in kindergarten and first grade with these kids coming through because they're prepped for school. We will still have a preschool program for that basic group that we originally kind of started with. So there will be, I think, 2 classrooms total. And that cuts 4 classrooms. So that's what this number represents. So we will go back to wait lists. We will not have the open Jaffrey Ringe Community Preschool program for them. We will still have a room for preschool for those small groups of kids funded by the special ed program, but that's very minimal, and this cuts a total of 4 staff.
Yeah, it cuts about 4 teachers, 7.2 staff. And again, a program that is so powerful. Moving on. These next 2 items right here, this is, in looking at these, we are trying to put forth cuts or potential cuts that are not resulting in actual staff having to leave. And these 2 positions, the district-wide behavior interventionist along with the 6th grade case manager, those are currently not filled and are very difficult to fill. It's not that they're not needed. It's just, you know, we would, with those not being able to be filled, and we haven't been successful all year long. This is something that we are putting on the table here. Half of a ELA teacher up at the high school, half of a position that we have a 504 coordinator. Sometimes that's done differently in high school, middle school guidance departments. Other subtractions, looking at the libraries at every place, wanting to continue to keep library. And actually, this focuses on trying to keep programming in place, and so keeping all of the unified arts in place at both of the elementary schools is a theme of this conversation right here. That said, there's almost $90,000 in support staff that we could, reduce. There's 2 part-time people at the elementary schools, and there's 1 full-time at this school. The restorative classroom, another program that was put into place to do 2 things. We have a mission that we want to engage, empower, and inspire all learners to thrive in their lives and communities. And so, in doing so, we also want to be fiscally responsible. And so we had started a couple years back building our own programming for For students, elementary students that fit a specific profile, we were sending them to out-of-district placement because we did not have what they needed and what they were legally required, and also they just needed for their education. We built that program, and these programs have, from a budget standpoint, been a savings. We have been able to keep kids in district, and when you do that, and you don't send them out, you actually save quite a bit in the tune of millions throughout the course of their educational experience. More importantly, and the reason why we did it from a moral standpoint, was that we believe that all kids can learn, and they learn in different time frames in different ways, and these kids learn in different ways and have different needs. And so we were able to, we call it the restorative classroom, because we want to be able to restore them. This is part of the reason why we call it that, but we want to restore them to their community and have them be part of the community, stay in the community, and through the course of staff working with them, be able to increase their ability to be in the mainstream, which we have been successful with several individuals. However, this coming year, we do have some ability to consolidate a little bit. It doesn't mean that it's, that we won't have the need the following year, but we can go down to one of the two restorative classrooms for next year, and that would save about $135,000. Supplies, like I said, it's very minimal. These are just, the school said, okay, we were going to increase in supplies. We have subscriptions that we have. Let's just cut the increase. We'll figure it out. And so that's what 21,000, 15,000, and 5,500, which is split differently between the middle and the high school. Getting to athletics and co-curriculars. Really activities across the entire district, but certainly the conversation always focuses more, as it makes sense to, at the secondary level. And so the goal here, as we go back to remembering what the goals were, was to keep programming in the schools that would be comparable as best we can to other schools and provide our kids opportunities that we believe is a good educational environment and meets the needs of all our learners. And our learners have more needs than just what goes on in the school day. And what goes on in the school day is very important, but it's supported by what goes on afterwards. When individuals, when kids, especially middle school, and you're going to hear me talk about middle school tonight. I know sometimes the conversation is about high school, and we'll talk about that too. But we want all of our kids to thrive in their lives and communities. Individuals going into 6th, 7th, 8th grade and adolescence, pre-adolescence, need to be involved. They need to be part of a community. They need to have a sense of belonging and believe that they are definitely in an environment that cares about them, and also that they learn to care about the environment and others around them. We know, we have evidence, clear evidence, when our middle school or upper elementary learners are not involved in programming, what goes on. We know that because we do keep things pretty straightforward with how we handle discipline and so forth within our schools. Sometimes people don't appreciate that, and they might pull a child out because they have a difference of opinion as to how to hold someone accountable for their behavior and to learn proper behavior. We've, in the past several years, had 5 or 6 people in that age bracket choose to homeschool, which you can do pretty quickly and easily in the state of New Hampshire. Sometimes that's a plus, and sometimes that's not. These individuals, I don't know what the homeschool curriculum was, but they had a lot of time on their hands, and they weren't engaged with other kids in a community. And as a result, we certainly had to deal with them through court situations and through legal situations as a result, as did the towns. And we won't go into that, and we're not going to identify anything, but the point of the matter is that's what takes place when people don't have things to do and when they don't belong. They don't feel like they belong. Some of these individuals have come back and they're doing well, and that's great. We want to continue to help kids thrive. So, while we do believe that some of these funds need to be removed, again, some of them, the red ones, aren't in the proposed budget, the default budget, because they were paid for by other types of funds this past year. They were in the proposed budget, and so that's why they're being removed from this. The athletic trainer is in the default budget, and so we'd be saying that we would remove that. It doesn't stop our need or our obligation to ensure safety. We would just have to develop a different plan and go back to an older approach to doing this. And so it's unfortunate. It took 3 years to find this position, and this person's done a great job for us. Transportation, athletic activities, transportation, referees, JV coaches, referees, we can save about $150,000. So total, there's this other $300,000 that's not in the budget, that's for activities, and we were looking to cut half of that. And then if you can go down on these bullet points and then add half of it back in. And that half back in means that we would keep middle school activities as they are, as much as possible, maybe have a lot more intramural programming going on, maybe not having transportation to other schools, but having those schools come to us. So we are going to have to work on scheduling things so that our kids we're not transporting them with buses and so forth, because we're cutting that transportation. This approach keeps a lot of our, we saw tonight our robotics team, which has taken off and done amazing things, and I would assume will continue to do amazing things. All kids thriving in their lives and communities means you need to have a plethora, a variance of activities, athletic and non-athletic. So this would, we would keep a JV approach. The concept would be that it would, again, be more intramural. Perhaps if someone has games and so forth and is willing to come here, we'd be able to make sure that that competitive nature is there. Lots of skill development. Some of those players would be swing players into the varsity programs, and it keeps your varsity programs so that they travel. Again, as much as possible, getting the traveling so that it focuses on being here, and it might mean that we have to double people or double teams up on buses when they go to other places. That's going to require some very tight scheduling. So that we'll take some work with that, but that's the idea. We want to be equitable between the middle school and the high school. There are different reasons why it's important not to favor one over the other, and it has a lot to do with their developmental needs and with the needs of individuals to continue to grow their skills all the way through. Plus, keeping middle school learners active from a practical standpoint builds the programming for the future. Additions, we know, we had this conversation at the budget season earlier, that we have tried to go through a year without a Chromebook replacement cycle. We've been trying to get a replacement cycle in the budget for years. We usually find different ways to get that. We don't have those ways at our disposal this year. And we can't do what was done again that year across this district, especially as more and more education is happening with the use of technology, at least from third grade on up. And also the state assessments and so forth are on that. That was not a good assessment year. All these are in red, not in the default budget, paid for by those other funds, would be putting the librarian back into the elementary school budget. If we were to remove and keep the French teacher removed from the budget, that means the entire program of the French program would be removed, so that would be gone, and you're not going to get that back once it's gone. It's very unlikely. So that is a trade-off. So you'll see that the other 2 pages adds up to over 2 million, about 2,400,000, and this offsets and adds back in enough to hover around the 1.8 million. We ended up removing through the budget the support staff for the assistant principal in the middle school. We're able to retain the staff, which is great, in other positions, so we're not losing an individual there, but the position is gone, and the work that person needed to do and did do is going to fall more on another individual, and that person was at a lower percentage in the budget, and we need that person back to 100% to make sure that the MTSSB part of that focus at the middle high school, a school of about 600 individuals, has the support it needs. And then there's this line is a catch-all for health insurance, dental insurance, modest percentage increases for all the JRAO and SAU exempt and non-exempt staff. All other individuals who would be remaining in this, in the JREA, the JRSSA, all of them have built-in percentage increases and so forth. These don't quite match those percentage increase, but it still puts something in place that is letting them know that things are getting expensive and so forth, and we're helping them, and they're doing a good job. And then we would be putting back, even though we'd be losing high school English language arts teacher, we talked about that 6th grade teacher. Again, I can't stress how much that one little line item, which is not which is a significant thing as a person, that support, what it did to the entire middle school schedule and how much stress it put on the entire environment, and how much it made the scheduling capacity so tight that there was no wiggle room. And that then impacted, although our student services department did an amazing job and made sure that it worked, that was at a different type of expense, the flexibility of what would normally be healthy was removed, and this puts that flexibility back in and provides the support in an area that we need to continue to grow in, and that we are in the 2nd year of a major implementation, curriculum and instruction implementation. You might have questions, for instance, around the elementary class sizes. Again, middle high school, they would have to do a separate presentation as to what all that would entail, because it's a system that we're talking about. You move one part of the system, it impacts like a domino. And so scheduling, when you're talking about high school scheduling, is a lot more complicated. And then throw in the fact that they have already consolidated schools in years past to make things more efficient. Middle school gets into that mix and makes things even that much more complicated. Elementary, you can see that this is a slide. Some of the numbers might have changed throughout the course of the year, but this was a slide that was provided in November of 2025, and this assumes this is what could happen if we had a 2-classroom teacher reduction. You can see that the goal would be to try to keep those kindergarten classes in a reasonable area. Of course, we don't really you have to open up kindergarten registration to find out. We actually had big numbers at JGS this year that we weren't expecting. And that's been tough to have kindergarten teachers have classroom sizes of 20. Kindergarten is usually the age group where you have the biggest span of skill sets and maturity, levels within the developmental stages. 1st grade, 2nd grade it's higher than what the board has chosen to keep as its cap Usually we keep it around 17. That's on grades 2, 1, and K, but it's not too far above. Third grade stays within that range, and then fourth and fifth, you can see that those are a lot higher. We've had classroom sizes like this before. It's usually like 1 year, and there you have a bubble class. This looks like it would, again, we're talking about becoming a little bit more of a new normal to have the staff, but still be within the board's recommended policy, or the policy on recommended class sizes at various levels. 25 is really the high there for that, which of course this would peak out there. If we were to remove 2 from JGS has a smaller group of people to start off with. They have fewer teachers there already, and so they also have fewer learners. But when you start getting into situations where you get down to not having more than 1 class, that creates a whole nother set of challenges. You don't have the ability to separate as well, and you also, if students move in, you start to then not have the room to be able to get them into class sizes that fit within what the board would want for their policy. So while these numbers look a little more doable at the upper grade levels, the third, fourth, and fifth, you can see that at K 1 and 2, they actually, so it actually just equalizes the number across the board. So they'd have higher sizes at the lower grade levels, where Ringe would have them a little bit lower, and then vice versa, you know, at the upper levels. So, 1 second. Okay. So the these are concept models. I just got that text that some of these numbers are different and adjusted, and but that the concept is still the same, and the areas of 19 is at JGS is what the number would be typically in the classroom sizes. So that's the information. I was longer than I wanted to be. And the goal here tonight, certainly the board can make kind of a statement as to how we're going to move forward. We do have, it's a little bit different than last year because they are going to sign the MS-22 because we have a default budget that can, be submitted to the Department of Education. Unlike last year, things were very different. We had to, know exactly where things were going because we weren't dealing with a default budget at that point in time. We do have a little bit of time to take input, to have the board have some conversation, and to make decisions. We are going to have to act fairly soon, as this is a time around when contracts go out. This is hiring season. People have choices. They need to know, people need predictability and consistency as much as possible. And so that's going to be key. This is as balanced as we possibly can be, I think. And it looks unbalanced and terrible.
All right, thank you, Ruben. We are going to move into public comments, and before we do that, and Ruben, would you put up the public comment policy on the screen? We are going to keep public comments for this first session at a cap of 30 minutes total. Each speaker will be allowed to speak for 2 minutes max. And currently, the board has a policy to only have Jaffrey Ringe voting eligible residents speak at public comments, and we need a board decision to allow out-of-district speakers or minors to speak. So does somebody wish to make a motion to include comments from out-of-district or minors?
Yeah, Lisa, I'd like to make that motion to allow students and out-of-district staff to speak. I think given the size of the crowd and the valuable input that they have on these specific positions, I'd like to hear that.
Thank you, Chris. Is there a second? Christine, second. So we will do a vote. If we could say those in favor of allowing public comments from students and out-of-district folks, please say aye. Aye. And can you do a raise of hands, because we're in a line here? 3, 4. Okay, great. Opposed? 1. Abstain? Okay. That passes 5-1. Sorry, passes 6-1-0. All right. Passes 5-1-1. Thank you. Okay. All right. So when you speak, if you could please come up to this microphone, state your name, state the town that you live in, and again, we're going to keep that. And Ruben, I'm going to take your computer for a bit. When you come back, can you sit over mine? Thanks. Okay, one moment. Let me get set up. For this public comment time, I want you to know that the board this will be more of a listening session rather than a response. So most likely we are not going to be answering your questions at this time. We are going to have a board discussion after the public discussion, and generally what happens in those cases is we address specific concerns that come up in the public as well. Okay.
Okay, I'm Leslie McLean. I'm from Jaffrey. While the assistant superintendent job is not a current position, and yes, we farmed out work to the SAU staff, I strongly believe this model is not sustainable. We are approaching high levels of staff burnout. We've asked people to be responsible for things they have no experience with. We have obvious burnout, which is impacting many positions. Short tempers, apathy, and at times, sometimes even tears have been known to happen. We will have staff turnover. People in the SAU, especially outside of student services, are employable in many industries at a higher rate of pay and receive increases that at least keep up with inflation. As Ruben stated already, turnover is expensive. I sincerely hope that the community begins to realize the necessity of staffing the SAU correctly in the very near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie.
I'm Scarlett Castiglione. I'm in 10th grade. I live in Jaffrey, and I really want to turn this and talk to the adults. We are dealing with big adult problems. Start speaking up. Speak up. Stop trying to wait for change and become it, because nobody is going to do it for you. And I may be loud, but it's because I've been so quiet about this issue for so long. I am tired of seeing what I love being taken away from ignorance. It is pure ignorance. Nobody cares. Nobody cares, and that's the issue. And whether it's because they don't know, whether it's because they don't want to know, it's ignorance. That is the theme of everything that is going on right now. Nobody cares to learn. Nobody cares to see why these kids are upset. Everybody is upset. I'm 16 years old speaking up. I am terrified right now. I may be wrong, but at least I'm up here speaking up. At least I'm talking about what I care about. Adults, you are our role models. For the people who are denying our education, for the people who are denying our outlets of creativity, of our safe places. I've been president of Conant Drama Club for 2 years now. 2 years. I've been a part of it since I was 12 years old, and it is something that I have grown to love with all of my heart, because I have learned self-confidence. I've learned how to work with a team. I've learned how to actually love myself. I've learned how to care about the people I'm with, and it is something that means so much to me, and seeing that taken away is devastating. especially how much work I've put into it since 12 years old. Since 12 years old. And with sports, what are we going to do when these kids in sports no longer have an outlet to run, no longer have an outlet to be angry? We're going to have a group of angry, hormonal teenagers who don't know what they're doing, and they're going to take that out on the community, on the town, and on our schools. And for the people who voted and said it will not be affecting us, for the people who are homeschooled, for the people who are not involved in this school system, you will absolutely be involved, because they're going to take out their anger through vandalizing. And they're going to try to find a way to be shown, to get the attention that they are not getting, to try to find that feeling of being appreciated and doing what they love. And by removing what we love, it is corrupting all creativity. And by the time all of these kids are depressed and don't want to do anything, boo-hoo, boo-hoo. That's not on us. Because even though ignorance is so loud, I was out there holding signs. I was out there holding signs with a group of kids my age, yet kids younger than me.
I'm sorry, it's about 30 seconds
It's
after
okay.
the time.
It's okay. I'm so heated right now. I'm trying to be polite and professional. Please, please stop waiting for change and become it. That's my main theme. Please stop waiting for change and become it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Olivia Swift. I'm from Jaffrey. We're told that a school is defined by its classrooms, but I believe it's more than that. It's also defined by what happens after the final bell rings. Cutting our clubs and drama program isn't just removing extras, it's removing what makes our school special. In these spaces, we don't just goof off and learn facts, we learn how to be a community. When I'm in baking with Mr. Baker, it's about more than just the recipes. It's creating a masterpiece of flavor. We don't always have to follow the recipe. We get creative. My friend Belle and I made muffins, and we decided we needed a little something more. We added our own twist and made a unique glaze of nutmeg, pumpkin spice, vanilla, and ginger. The kitchen is where we learn patience and how to make your own spin on the recipe, and how to turn a mistake into something sweet. In animation, we aren't just sitting behind screens. We are getting our creativity to spike. We don't just animate, we do our own brainstorming. Sure, we may get off track, or just be downright silly, but that's the fun in it. We're all learning how to bring our wildest imaginations to life. And in drama, we find our home for our voices. We sing, dance, and act. We really become our character, teaching us what it's like to be in others' shoes, and it's really fun. When I was Annie in Annie, it was the absolute best. I felt like I was important, especially when my character Annie did. The stage teaches us empathy, confidence, and how to stand tall even when we're nervous. There's so many other clubs like fishing, volleyball, art exploration, D&D, robotics, and more that don't deserve to be cut. If you cut these programs, you aren't just saving money. You are losing the reason many of us look forward to coming to school every morning. Please don't take away the spaces where we can find our place. To lose these programs wouldn't just be a budget cut. It would leave us feeling crushed and devastated, and as if the very heart of our student life had been demolished. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I did let it go longer. I do want to just do a quick comment. And again, we're not making decisions tonight, and things can change. What Superintendent Duncan presented kept the on-site activities. So those things particularly that you mentioned, the intention would be to keep the on-site activities. So I do want to mention that. Again, we're not making decisions tonight, so things are still in flux, but I do want to mention that. Is there another public comment?
Ella DeRozier, Jaffrey. I'm a sophomore here at Conant Middle High School, and the only reason I attend school every day and pass my classes is because we have to in order to play sports. If there weren't these guidelines, I would have no reason to come to this school, and that goes for many others. The majority of this presentation was pre-K and not how this would affect us high schoolers. This school will lose many student athletes if these sports were cut, including myself.
Is there anybody online, Alex, that is wishing to speak? He said no.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I thought Alex said no. Sorry, John. Yes, we can hear you. Please state your name and your town of residence.
Sure. So my name's Jimmy Gallagher. I'm an employee for Jaffrey Ringe as a special education teacher, and I live in Jaffrey as well. And I have 2 children in the district, one in the pre-K and one in the Little Oriole Center as well. So just to say, I want to say thank you guys for all of your hard work in trying to just navigate this terrible problem. And just to preface, any cut is terrible, as we're all aware. And I can't support any of it. I just wanted to speak to 2 programs specifically that have impacted my family and made a big difference for both of my children. First is the pre-K program at RMS, where my son goes when he accompanies me to school each day. It's just made a huge difference in his life personally. We've seen just tremendous growth with his teacher, who is phenomenal. Both the teachers that have worked in the full day program have done an amazing job with their students. And I can speak to that both just from my experience as well as my observations as a professional. And to lose that program, I just think the effect is just so terribly negative. Looking at it just from a data statistic or a data standpoint, student achievement is really affected so positively by having a pre-K program that develops social emotional skills as well as academic skills. And if to cut any program or any position is to affect student achievement, but I really think that this would really work so strongly to the detriment of our students if we were to remove the pre-K program and to lose the teachers that we have in that program, who we may in the future, if we were able to rebuild the program, we could do that, but we'd never be able to replace the teachers that we currently have. And so I don't think any program should be cut, but it would be heartbreaking, I think, for me personally to see anything happen in the pre-K, because it's had such a positive effect on my child personally, and I know that it would for any other child that would attend it moving forward. The second program that I wanted to speak to.
I have to stop you. It's over the 2-minute mark. But we don't have that many people here. Board, nod your head if you're okay to hear about the Little Orioles. Okay, we'll take it. Yep, go ahead. Yep, you can continue for another minute, please.
Sorry, can you hear me? I was muted.
Yep, go ahead for another minute. Thank you.
In terms of child effect, again, I think that it's developed social emotional skills, but I think in terms of thinking from a budgetary standpoint, the Little Oriole Center has done an amazing job of retaining staff in the district. And I feel like by retaining the program and keeping it moving forward, it's essentially like spending less money on prevention as opposed to trying to spend more money on a pound of cure. I just think that you'll lose staff who, again, you cannot replace if you were to cut this program. Again, I could speak to the quality of the teachers that have been in my children's lives, but I think that we're already going to have trouble retaining and attracting teachers moving forward. And so holding on to programs such as the Little Oriole Center is really going to be crucial in order to kind of keep the ship afloat moving forward. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. We have another online. While we're waiting for that person, John, come on up.
Okay, so I just wanted to say,
John
you know,
McCarthy.
John
Jaffrey.
McCarthy, and I live in Jaffrey, Squantum Road. And, good luck to you all. This is not easy, but thanks for being up there doing it. And, I hope you'll be as creative as you can in using the resources that are still available to you to create the best educational solution that you can. And I've got confidence you're going to do a good job, and it's hard to lose things, but do the best that you can, and I hope you'll really focus on the staff and trying to retain your staff, because it is really hard when you've had such good retention. Ruben mentioned it earlier that compared to most districts, we've really been very fortunate in retaining really high-quality staff. And it's going to be hard this year, but I hope you'll do the best that you can and find a creative solution that helps to bring our communities together. Thanks.
Alex, was there somebody online?
Kathy Kozlowski from Ringe. I would just like to commend those students for their courage in standing before everyone and speaking up. It speaks volumes to what all of the goodness is that's happening in our schools. That's it.
You got a lot of nods here, Kathy. Thank you.
Hi, Allie Marr from Ringe, and I just want to echo what many people have already said. This is an incredibly tough position to be in for the second year in a row, and to just echo what John said as well, I hope that we can continue to be creative. I know this was our initial proposal. Selfishly, as an elementary school teacher, I look at that and think, wow, there are a lot of cuts at the elementary school level. That being said, I also realize that our middle high school has been really creative in the past in scheduling to try to lessen the blow for the elementary schools in the past. We've taken on a really challenging literacy program, and I look at those class size numbers and I think about if we lose the pre-K program and just knowing what that might look like 2 or 3 years down the road, I think we have to be really realistic about what we can expect from our elementary school students in large class sizes with really rigorous programming, knowing that they may be coming in from very different places in kindergarten without the support of a pre-K program. And just one more quick note, I hope that no matter what decision we make, we always look at, is there something that we can do to lessen the impact that directly affects kids? Because that's our job, number one. Thank you.
Hi, Sumner McFarland, Ringe, New Hampshire. The way that we all feel here tonight, just please keep that in mind and try and drum up support when the vote does come back around, because all of this investment that we're putting into our kids, this is the future labor market if you want a company in this area. This is going to affect your home values going forward, because the less attractive that the school is the less able that you're going to be able to sell your house. It's the less market that you're going to have to envelop employees for your future or for your business to survive. So please just keep all these factors in mind when you're voting next time. That's all I have to say. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, I'm Jenny Muskowskis from Templeton, Massachusetts. I'm one of the art teachers at Conant Middle High School. I've been here for the last 8 years. First off, I know you guys have a very difficult decision to make, and I know that there are no good options. But I'm hoping that there's a way that you can consider keeping the daycare at the Little Orioles Center. Having access to the daycare has been incredibly important for me and my family, as well as so many other staff members and their families. It's allowed me the opportunity to pursue my career without feeling like I've had to choose between being a dedicated educator and being present for my family. When I found out that I was expecting twins, I was honestly terrified about how I'd manage everything. But knowing that I had a safe and nurturing daycare right down the hall brought an incredible sense of relief and support during that time. And it's truly been such a blessing to our family. Our girls have absolutely thrived in the Little Orioles Center. The care and attention and early learning experiences they receive have helped them grow socially, emotionally, and academically in ways that we are so grateful for. It's clear how much the staff there genuinely care about the children and the families that they serve. For families like mine, this program is not just convenient, it's essential. I sincerely hope the district will recognize the value that it brings to staff and family and retaining the staff that we currently have, and consider any plans to try to save it if possible. Programs like this make it possible for educators to continue doing the work that we love while knowing that our children are safe and in a supportive environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Just a quick note. We saw on the screen how many pre-K students there are. Ruben, how many Little Orioles students are there? 17. So the Little Orioles Center serves 17 students of our staff members. All right. If there's no further comments, we'll open this to board discussion, and we'll have a second public comment period following. And so, Ruben, I think we're going to have questions for you. Do you want to come and switch again? So as we go through, what will help me, because we're all in a line, is if we raise our hands and make sure you use a microphone when you're speaking. We won't go down the line. We'll simply, if you don't have a comment, that's okay. Again, we are not voting tonight. I think we're all in agreement that this is going to take time to process. My understanding is, from Ruben's presentation and from time, is that while the default budget is set and we will be signing that tonight, these are the areas that the administration have been working on the last few weeks that they feel supports the students as best as possible and across the board, with minimizing impact as much as possible. That's not, practically impact is happening. But there are still items that are semi-in-flux. There's no, we were, saying, yes, it's St. Patrick's Day, there's no pot of gold coming to say we can save any program. But we can, as a board, make recommendations to say, even if it means other cuts, please try to keep this item. Or if you have a recommendation from the presentation saying, boy, I really feel like this is the priority to really really try to keep, should things happen in the next few weeks, to open up some funding. So whoever would like to speak first, raise your hands, ask questions, whatever you need. Christine, yep. I'm going to hand you the microphone.
So I understand that, a school budget is different than a household budget. Voters have told us how much we can spend, and we can't spend more than that. And so I know it gets confusing sometimes when we talk about cutting a program like the Little Oriole Center that actually has revenue coming in, but we are trying to find ways to cut costs, to lower the amount that we spend. And I was hoping that I could talk with Carrie, our Chief Financial Officer, to talk about what it would look like if it is any way, in your vision, possible to have 4-year-old pre-K be tuitioned in, even though I know we need to bring that number, the budget line down. Do you see any path forward in having that be a tuitioned program? Thank you.
You still have to budget for the expense, so that's really where the problem lies. You have to budget for the expense. So that would be revenue coming in that would help offset the taxes, but that's also an expense that you have to plan for, and you can't exceed the budget, the voter-approved appropriations.
I'm going to speak last, so go ahead.
Okay, so as I anticipated, the idea is that, you know, unlike a household expense where if you get a raise, for instance, if you have increased revenue, you can increase the amount of money that you spend at the grocery store. That doesn't work with the school budget. We have to cut, we have to stay within a certain number even if the revenue increases. And so it does explain why we can't implement, say, a pay-to-learn program or, you know, pay-to-play in terms of sports, why we can't simply charge students to participate in programs and therefore pay for something like transportation. I would like to make the case that I hope that we can, as a board or as a district, find a way to keep four-year pre-K somehow. We understand the importance of it developmentally for children. We also know that there are not many quality pre-K programs in our area. And perhaps we can be creative enough to find some nonprofit preschool organization that would be willing to use our space, such as Conval uses an organization called First Friends to run pre-Ks out of their grade schools. So I know this is a very valuable program, and it's very painful to lose, and I'm really hoping we can find some creative ways to offer something to our families going forward.
While people are thinking of their questions, it's important to note there are several other aspects to the budget. So while the default budget was put into place, the JRSSA contract was passed. And so I don't remember the number offhand, but let's say it's 200, let's just say 200,000. So the $200,000 for that first year, what happens is now that that's been passed, that now goes into something called the adopted budget. And so that will be added into this number, the 31 million and change there, I think, so it will be over 32 for next year. Also, the warrant article for, I mean, a couple of the warrant articles passed, but the warrant article for $350,000 to be raised and appropriated for facilities was also passed, and so that is going to go, well, not part of, it goes into a trust, a fund. It's still going to be something that's raised by taxation.
I'll go. I guess first get this out of the way. If the topic of the library positions comes up, I'll recuse myself from that discussion due to a conflict. Just want to get that out of the way. You know, being here for the second year in a row, going through this, thought a lot about it, and like everyone here, I think I have a lot of emotions about it. One of them is not surprise. Unfortunately, this year, I'm absolutely not surprised to be here, and that's because I understand how education funding works in New Hampshire. If you understand the numbers, if you understand the trends, you know, they're all headed in this direction. I've talked about it at many meetings. I've posted online about it. I've written about it for the newspapers. And I really want people to start understanding what's happening here before it's too late. We're going to sit here and we're going to talk about cuts this year. And again, I recognize that there are many local factors too, right? There's many local factors, particularly within Ringe, why we're here. However, the root cause, if people want to really identify the root cause of this, it's that state funding. And I think, you know, as Scarlett said there, people need to start waking up and seeing what's happening and realizing it and speaking up. Incredibly important, and thank you for saying that, Scarlett. And another thing is, when I talk about it, write about it, and many people do, they call the system broken, right? System's broken, education funding is broken in New Hampshire. In thinking about it this week, I think it's important that we recognize that it's not, you know, something that delivers the same results year after year after year is not broken. If it were broken, it would have been fixed. We need to recognize that the majority of our representatives in Concord, this is the intent of the system for a lot of them, right? This is intentional. It's not a broken system. This is a feature of the system that we have today. So I just wanted to take this opportunity, because we're going to go through this, we're going to make cuts. At the end of the day, the cause of this is going to be the same, and if we don't do something about it, and by we, I mean more than just a few of us, we'll be right back here next year. I have absolutely no doubt of that. So, getting that out of the way, the result of the vote, I think that while it was close, many of us that worked hard for it, look at that, the number was, 68 votes, but looking deeper into it, 174 less people voted in favor of the school budget this year. And I know that this board spent a lot of time explaining, trying to justify our budget. And in the end, it really didn't work. If we just had the same amount of people show up for the schools as showed up last year, we wouldn't be sitting here, we'd have a budget. So the answer to that, I don't know. I'm kind of perplexed as to why people didn't, but it is a clear message, right? This was our lifeline. We talked about last year, I was reading some old articles, we're like, this is our lifeline. Well, the lifeline's gone now, and here we are really making some of these cuts permanent, which is pretty sad, but I think I need people to understand that. And even tonight, right, we see that we have hundreds of people show up to cut the budget and support it, and now that it's, we're making these hard decisions, it's the same familiar faces, and I think until more people start getting involved, this will continue. And I've been talking about this for years. You can go back and check, and I will continue to talk about it, as long as I'm up here. So, thanks for indulging me on that, and please take it to heart. I think I know what I'm talking about on this subject, so unfortunately this year I was proven right. I'd like to be wrong next year about it. As far as the cuts go, I think that, I know this must have been incredibly hard for the administrators and Ruben to come up with these, and I agree they're not recommendations, they're, I don't know what to call them, I don't think there's a good, a good word for it. It's a path backward, maybe would be the right word, not really a path forward, it's a path backward for us. I think we have a lot to think about. I guess I will commend the effort in that it seems to be spread across, different areas, different schools as much as possible to, I guess, limit the impact to any one particular area, although I know that's incredibly difficult, but at least I think we all expected to see something like this, and that's what we have. I don't have too many specific comments on the cuts. One area that maybe Ruben you can talk about afterwards that concerns me in the long run, and I noticed we did make a lot of cuts to special education, but again, getting back to how we fund our schools, special education costs and many of these other things we can't control, right? We can't control the special education needs of our district and what those costs, and those are absolutely necessary and vital services, not taking away from that at all. But what I worry about in the future is those costs continue to rise and our budgets continue to shrink. They become a bigger and bigger part of our budget, and our regular education programs and extracurricular programs become the thing that needs to go, right? We see here, I hope people don't take the message away from here, oh, we still have some sports, because I guess my counter would be for now, okay? And I'm happy, absolutely happy to have, I don't think you'll find a bigger supporter and participant in extracurriculars than me, but understand that that may not be the case next year. And another thing, I guess getting back to athletics and activities, this is an idea I threw out last year and nobody really said anything, but I'll say it again, now that we're here again. I really do think that the communities of Jaffrey and Ringe would step up to help fund Conant sports and activities, maybe not the full extent, but as we talk about getting creative, I think we need to look at community funding, and Christine talked a bit about for pre-K, and I know that there are people that are opposed to this, but pay-to-play type opportunities, I think those discussions need to be on the table, at least so that the community understands what the opportunities are to maybe decrease some of those costs and bring back some more educational programs that are ultimately will be judged on all important. But I think we should maybe at least consider those things that people are likely to support, likely to pay for, and use those to help run those programs and maybe possibly bring back some of these educational sacrifices that we're clearly making here. I think that's all for now.
I'm probably not going to make people happy with my comments, but I look at this crowd and I think everybody that's here all supports the schools. Where are the people that voted this budget down? Where are the people that didn't spend hours, nights, Saturdays creating this budget to be accepted? Where are those people? Oh, those are the people that voted this down. They're the people that complain about our proficiency scores. How good are those scores going to be when we got 25 fifth graders in one class? The proficiency scores aren't going to get better. That's all these people complain about, but they don't want to do anything. I'm really, quite frankly, very, very disappointed. And that's all I could say about that.
Any other board member input? For my part, I walked into this knowing I didn't want to be emotional, and did very well until I saw Dante nod his head when Chris started talking about how intentional this breakdown is of our public schools, and I hate that you understand that. I hate that all of you understand that we're speaking up, that there is an intentionality to cutting out everything good in our public schools right now at the state level. It is ugly, and it does need to change. So that was the emotional part. Besides the fact that anything we can do to keep the Little Orioles Center active and not threatened, anything we can do to keep an extensive pre-K program can only help our district keep staff, keep the community healthy and stronger. Yes, we had less voters come out, and yes, the budget was voted down by 68 votes. We still have an incredible voter turnout compared to many, many other towns. And these community members that are using the EFAs, that are deciding to make decisions for all students and all people, this can't continue. It is unsustainable. Our state needs to rise up. They need to see what our schools are dealing with, and they really need to stop promoting lies on social media about all kinds of propaganda that is just pathetic. That was a huge play in this, and what a ridiculous thing we had. So many conversations that were just a complete waste of time. There's so much more important things happening. So whatever the budget can do to keep the early childhood programs healthy, I would support, but I look at what you guys have put in place as far as the administration to limit the impact. And I'm incredibly appreciative of the time that was put into this, the effort that was put into this, the pain that was put into this. Thank you for that. And we'll see what happens when we come back in 3 weeks, when we have to give a peer vote on this. I can't imagine too much is going to change from this, but maybe opportunities can open up. I don't know. Live in hope, right? All right. Moving on through the agenda. We have a consent agenda, and I didn't take the time to welcome our 2 new board members. We were kind of focused on other things. So Ali Vitello and Jared Rainey, welcome. Thank you guys so much. I would say you didn't know what you were getting into, but truthfully, I think you probably did. I think both of you probably did know what you were getting into. You know, maybe not the budget decrease of this extent, but you knew that this was coming in hard and coming in hot, and so thank you for coming forward. So the way we do a consent agenda is everything in the consent agenda bullets gets approved at once unless an item is removed for further consideration. And in our consent agenda currently, we have manifests, we have payroll, we do not have any budget transfers. We have a donation from the Jaffrey Grade School Parent Group, Eyes on Owl presentation, which is a really cool presentation. We had it at my school district. And they bring live owls, and they're really cool. And we got a book, and it's really cool. So I'm looking forward that Jaffrey gets that program. It's really cool. Thank you for the parents group. We have an appointment of Ryan Smith for assistant coach, outdoor track and field. And we have a resignation of Mary Goldthwaite, JGS art teacher, as of June 30th, and acknowledgement of the receipt of the stipend list. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented? Thank you, Sandra. Is there a second? Thank you, Judy. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Abstain? Passes 700. We have the minutes from the March 2nd meeting. And because Jared and Alicia and Ali, you were not here for those, this would be a time to abstain from those. So we only approve minutes for those times when we are present for them, whether online or in person. So is there a motion to approve the minutes for March 2nd public meeting? Thank you, Christine. Is there a second? Thank you, Sandra. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Abstain? Passes 502. Discussion items, we have the voting results, which I don't have anything to say about them, but I will say that it was mentioned, or there's always the possibility of asking for a recount of the ballots if it's too really close. I happen to be supervisor of the checklist in Ringe, and so I'm there for 15 hours watching the polls. And the devices used both in Jaffrey and Ringe are new devices. There were no glitches. Bob Schauman, the moderator for the school board, was at both polling places as well and inspected them. And had this been a write-in decision, then those few votes, that would make sense. But because this was a ballot decision with no glitches in the machines, it seemed like this probably wasn't a good idea to try to do a recount. It wouldn't have made too much difference on that. Ruben, did you have anything that you wish to say on the articles or on the vote?
No, I don't think so. I think I spoke about them already, and I'm pleased that the JRSSA contract was passed. That's an important factor in continuing to retain staff and to fairly compensate individuals and provide working conditions that are conducive to the work that they do, but individuals who are essential for the running of our school and for the health and well-being of our kids and the strengthening of our community.
Any board members wish to discuss the voting results? Okay. Moving on to committee assignments. We have various committees. We have a policy committee, and that's policy is the main job of the school board. We have a facilities committee. We have a wellness committee. We have it's a facilities, wellness. Help me out, guys, because we changed in the last year a little bit.
So in the past, we did something different this year, but we had a finance committee that still is considered a board committee, even though we did more of it within the whole school board this year. So we have the finance committee, the education committee.
That was what I was missing.
Yep, and the other committees that you spoke of.
Okay.
Yep.
I would like to make a recommendation that we reinstate the Finance Committee as in conjunction with the Facilities Committee. And the reason for that is the facilities is something that it changes all the times, the needs change, as money comes in, it's a lot of decisions on where the money's being spent. So it's a lot of robbing Peter to pay Paul, to be able to find, okay, we have this thing come up, we have to figure out this. So I would like to make a recommendation that we actually combine the two and create that. I've seen it at other boards, which is why I'm recommending it. It seems successful to have that happen. Is that something the board would feel like it's a good combination there? Okay, good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send out a Google Sheet that will include the times that we generally meet for these committees. Each committee will need a chair. Each committee in their first meeting should create goals for the year for that committee. And what I'll do is send out, and you can give your recommendations. Usually, board members are on a good 2 committees. So you put your recommendations down for where you'd like to be. I'll put the times down of when we meet. Those are all already online on our school board website. Under the school board tab, you can see the committee information there. So I'll send that out this week so that at our next meeting we can kind of finalize that. Christine.
Sorry for making you come to me. I would like to have a conversation about bringing back the education committee the way it used to be. Having those presentations by our principals that were part of the regular school board meeting were amazing and very helpful, but it was not the monthly check-in that allowed for a smaller group of people. And of course, the public is welcome to attend, and they were recorded. But to really dive in deep to learn about the successes and challenges that we're having. So I know that that's an extra burden on our staff. And so I wanted to just have the conversation and see how people feel about that. And maybe we don't do it every month if this is such a stressful year, but we do it every other month. But that opportunity to really get into the data and ask a lot of questions, I think was a missed opportunity this year.
I would agree with that, and I was also thinking let's revert our school board model. I think we have all these incredible presentations. They're not going to be that much different. Like, we can go back to those presentations when we need to. I don't think we need to continue that model for our board meetings. I think we can go back to the regular where superintendent's report, where we touch on things. And the committee work is really where the majority of the board work happens. So we wanted to be really transparent last year and bring every single thing to the public. We did that. It's all there. Yeah, we're not changing our models. We're just trying to keep as much status quo as we possibly can right now. If there's growth, that'd be amazing. But yeah, let's go back and use the committees for that. I would agree. I also want to have to continue this, I want to have a workshop day for the board where we invite the School Board Association membership, perhaps some admin, but we want to start preparing our strategic plan. And our goals for this year. And that would be helpful to have a work day that we can really hammer that out. All right. We have some action items. We have signing the MS-22. Do we need to put that on the board, on the screen now, or is that all set, Ruben?
Carrie, did you want to describe the MS-22 to the audience and to the new board members, well, to all board members?
Sure. The MS-22 is a report to the Department of Revenue Administration that needs to be completed after the votes have passed to inform them of what the voter-approved appropriations are. And when you look at the pages, the Department of Revenue breaks it out by function, which are specific types of programs, and then the costs are broken out by elementary, middle, and high school. So when you look at that, that's how you would read the report, and that it does combine any warrant articles in addition to the operating budget that were approved. So those amounts are included. So you would see grants, you would see food service, you would see the the two amounts for the capital reserve funds that were approved, the $25,000 for the health trust fund and for the building maintenance capital reserve trust fund. So on the bottom, on the very last page, the total voter-approved appropriations equal $32,602,725.
Okay. Thank you, Carrie. On the agenda, if the
sorry.
board members,
Lisa, I'm sorry, can I say one more thing?
Please.
I do need these to be signed tonight, so if everyone could please stick around while I pass them around, that would be great. You can sign on the right-hand side, anywhere next to where it says school board member. Just don't sign in the superintendent or the school district clerk spots. Thank you.
All right. Ally, you have your computer up on this? Can you go to the agenda, the next one where it says authorized? Yeah. At the bottom of that, could you make the motion? Could you read that out? Yep.
I make a motion to approve the new authorized bank signers for the Jaffrey Grade School and Ringe Memorial School student activity accounts, and for the Jaffrey Ringe Cooperative School District General Fund, food service, and dues checking accounts.
And Sandy seconded that motion. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Abstain? Passes 7-0-0.
The MS-22, could we go back to that one and have a motion on the approval of the MS-22? It will need to be signed, but before it gets signed, it has to be approved.
Cool, I didn't see a motion on
Yep,
that
that's fine.
bottom. All right, is there a motion to approve MS-22? Thank you, Sandra. Is there a second? Ally seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Abstain? Passes 7-0-0. Okay. Ruben, can you explain the corrections to the SAU exempt and non-exempt benefits?
Yes, there was a typographical error in both of those where we had a redundancy of the numbers and the years of exempt service, or in the next one, the years of non-exempt service. And so the range was like from 0 to 5, and then I think it was from 5 to 10, and so it instead of 6 to 10. So it was a error we found after the fact and wanted to make sure that even though we understood what the intent was and we talked about the fact that it was like that, nevertheless, it's a document that we're going to be placing online, and so we want to make sure it's accurate.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve both of the corrections for the SAU exempt benefits and the SAU non-exempt benefits? Thank you, Christine. Is there a second? Thank you, Judy. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Abstain? Passes 7-0-0. And we have 3 more field trips to approve. Of Conan Middle High School, the physics class to Six Flags, CMHS baseball to Cooperstown, New York, and the 8th grade to Boundless Adventures. And then we also have a facilities fee waiver. I think we can do all of those at once. So do we have a motion to approve the remaining field trips? Because we already did the robotics. Hang on one second.
I just wanted to know, Heather, are the groups being respective of the facilities, cleaning up after themselves and everything? And everybody's shaking their head no.
Before we have Heather speak, if she could have a microphone, that would be good, because she will not be able to be heard from other people.
So this is related to the JGS approval for a waiver of fees.
Before Heather speaks, I do think that it's prudent for the board to relook at their policies around revenue as it relates to the use of these facilities. And I think there's more reasons for it than just because of financial.
Well, we're shaking our head, but it's, we've written a letter from myself and the principals who are now in charge of facilities, and we just didn't think it was appropriate at this time due to the budget of bringing it up. So we are going to propose it in at the next school board meeting for you guys to read. But no, it was not a very good winter for any of our facilities with outside groups.
All right, so I'm going to recommend then, let's keep the facility fee waiver out of this next vote. Let's make this vote on the 3 remaining field trips. Is there a motion to approve the remaining field trips on the agenda? Thank you, Christine. Is there a second? Thank you, Sandra. And any discussion on the field trips? Yes, Judy? Yep. You're good.
The field trips aren't a net expense to the district in any way? They're self-supporting? Or does the district have to pay?
So you're asking how they're being funded? Okay. Anybody want to speak to that, Ruben or David? David.
These would be self-funded or fundraise-funded field trips.
All right, so is there a motion to approve the field trips? Jared, I see you wanted to raise your hand back there.
I make a motion to fund the field trips.
Thank you, Jared. Is there a second? Thank you, Judy. Any further discussion on the field trips? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Passes 7-0-0.
Just for clarification, for the minutes of the board meeting, I think what you meant was approve them, not fund them. There was a conversation about funding, so there's a difference of that. So if we can change, do you want to change your motion? Or amend your motion to approve?
Yeah.
Yep, instead of fund.
Perfect. Good. All right. So we have a request for a facilities fee waiver from Jaffrey Cub Scouts to use the JGS gym from April 2nd to June 4th for their sessions. And is there a motion to approve the facilities fee waiver?
Yeah, Lisa, I hear the discussion there, but this starts before we can meet again, so I think it makes sense to approve this waiver while we continue to have those discussions.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Is there a second?
If there's a second.
Thank you, Christine. Further discussion? Okay. Did you further discussion?
I brought this up about 4 years ago, and again, it's great that the school board approves that there's no waivers. But what happens is then they put in for it, and then we have to approve it. And if the facility, so I'm going to go with this too, even though they put those dates in, that gym space might already be taken up. So these groups get the false hope that that day is definitely available because the school board waives a fee. There's still a process to this. So you're right, you can say that the fees are, but the way you just said it is, well, it's coming up. The problem is that gym space or cafeteria might not be available anyways. I want people that are asking for those spaces to understand that.
Thank you. So Heather, I don't know if we're going to have to share a microphone or something here, but okay, you are. So it used to be, I feel like the plan was that when people, outside groups wanted to use the facility, they would have to check that the dates were available. Is that not the case any longer through Master, was it Master Library? I don't know what program we were using, but.
Okay, but you don't understand, the same thing on 4.2 right now. They could checked it, but again, our schools are being used, so we'll go with this. So even if we approved it, people aren't understanding. All of a sudden, no, the robotics, I'll use that, needs to use the Pratt. Because now they are heading off to Ontario. Right? So they might have put in for it and it might have been approved, but then they're going to have to, because it's a school function, right? Or they needed it to practice. Or right now, you know, drama might be asking for extra time because you used the Pratt today. Those are the kind of things I don't think that we're understanding, and it's a great thing because that's why people are up here speaking. Our after-school activities and those kind of things, but as you know, we use all the gyms. And again, I can just say about DI right now, right? Some of their programs are going off to states. So it's confusing, but we can't get everything all the time into Master Library prior to this. So that's what I wanted. But people understand that when the school board says, oh, the fees are waived, that they believe that their dates that they're going to put in are going to be there. Even if they're open, I just think that there needs to be clarification on those kind of things. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does make sense. Thank you.
Sandy, did you make the motion first? I made the motion. Okay. Chris made the motion. Christine seconded it. Any further discussion? It seems clear that we need to, as a policy committee, continue to revisit this. And something that we had talked about previously was more of a fee-based, and I think that that's got to be kind of a no-brainer, considering our financial situation right now and the need to keep our facilities up. So I do expect that this conversation is going to happen this spring for that will affect people this summer and the fall. But I think Chris is right. We're beginning the spring season. This is a difficult time to make policy changes suddenly on people. So let's have that conversation some more so that that becomes a priority moving forward. Okay. So we have first and a second and no further discussion. So all in favor of approving the facility fee waiver with the understanding that this does not commit the dates. This is just saying that we are waiving the fees for these dates as they are available. So all in favor of that, say aye. 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 Opposed? And abstain. Okay, that passes 6-1-0. Okay, onto policies, we have a second reading, and I believe Ruben and Kerry are going to speak to policy DID.
So Carrie and I have put together some adjustments to this policy since this has been posted that clarify our current practices. And so I would ask that the board put this on for a third reading, and we will put a revised policy DID on there for you to read and approve.
Okay, thank you. We'll just assume that's a good thing. We don't have to vote on that. We are on to public comments number 2, and we'll keep the same options for that. And Ruben, if you could put the policy up there, and I won't put the timer on because we're at a much less group, much smaller group. So.
Leslie McLean from Jaffrey. I'm sorry. I know most of you, the board members, pretty well, and I have to say I'm disappointed. At the school board meeting between these two events, Alicia Stenerson asked what you were going to do to help pass the budget, and there really wasn't a plan. Besides efforts from two members, I didn't see much advocacy from the board members between the deliberative session and the vote. We lost by only 68 votes. Would your advocacy have made a difference? I think you might remember an old commercial, if you're just the right age, where a model said, I told two friends about my shampoo, and she told two friends, and she told two friends, and so on and so on. Right? How many people could you have spoken to change minds? Could you have gone to a community forum or some other venue where you were available to speak to the public? Could you have shouted loudly from the rooftop about why the budget is important? If you did, I'm sorry I didn't see it, and I was looking for it all the time. I did see it from a couple of members, and I truly appreciate that effort. But I really felt the board was silent, even when asked by Alicia, what were you going to do? And the deflection was, well, the SAU is going to do stuff, which we did, but it would have been lovely to have direct advocacy from the people who recommended the budget to the public. So I think it was a lost opportunity, and I really hope you remember that next year. Thank you.
Allie Marr from Ringe again. I just was wondering, I was a little bit surprised about the lack of discussion tonight. I get that it's a lot to take in and try to figure out next steps. But Lisa, at one point you mentioned 3 weeks, and I just wanted to clarify, will the next board meeting be 2 weeks from today? And will at that board meeting, and you don't have to necessarily answer it, but I was just wondering what that might look like that night, just so people can kind of prepare coming in what they might see. And if someone has that really creative brain and over the next 2 weeks has a thought about, oh, this is a way that we could do something like Christine mentioned, or something that Chris brought up about, you know, helping with pay to play and how the community can get more involved with funding sports and extracurriculars. What's the best avenue for reaching out to the board? Is there one person that you would like us to use as a contact? I was just wondering how that might look and be best managed by all of you. Because I think there are a lot of us who recognize you're in a very tough spot and we only have so many limited options, but maybe there's someone out there with a brainstorm that could help. Thank you.
Thank you. So I can answer those. Our next board meeting is April 6th, and we have to have final budget voting that day because per CBA's people for collective bargaining agreements, we have until April 15th to do those final notifications. And so on people that cannot return due to the budget. So our next meeting, April 6th, will be the vote. And that has to be on the budgeted thing, so any pay for opportunities that could come up for pre-K or for sports or anything can't be related to that. We have to vote on this budget, and that will mean staff cuts and programming cuts. And so anybody who now in the future, whatever, has ideas on how to fund things more privately or more community related or finding new grants we haven't seen can go to any board member. We have boards from both towns. Not everybody's comfortable with specific people. Please always come to me. You know, anybody, you know, our emails, our contact information's on the website. And so absolutely, but we have 7 board members, you know, representing multiple towns. Come to any of us, we'll share it. As a board, we do not make individual decisions, we make decisions as a board. And so any cool ideas would be brought to the board for further discussion and dissemination, and we definitely want to meet with people for that kind of opportunity. Was there, I'm trying to remember those two, I was trying to remember if there was another.
So my only other part of that was just the next meeting you have on the 6th. What might we expect to see in terms of Like, will you expect, as board chair, having everyone sort of weigh in? I don't know, I was just wondering what that might look like, because I feel like I was expecting more of that tonight, and I know there are a lot of people who are like, really want to know what to expect moving forward, and I know that's hard.
It is. This is a very different meeting than we had a year ago after the budget, because we had $1.1 million in reserve funds. It was not hidden funds, it was there. And had we had those funds available to us, we would not be in the school care health insurance situation that we are in now, trying to find another $350,000. But we don't have those funds. We don't have anything to ride on now. So last year, the board had decisions to make. The community could weigh in on those decisions. This year, we don't. This year, the admin has to make these decisions. We can't, the whole group of us does not have anywhere near the experience that the admin that we've hired to do this job have. They know what's needed in their schools. And so the board is trusting that the superintendent and the administration and their staff are putting together the least impactful plans. Now, the board has an opportunity to discuss those, but we also want to be extremely careful not to micromanage our staff. And this is unconscionably brutal, what we're asking them to do. And so, personally, I'm feeling very much that this quietness that we're bringing forward is actually more respectful than trying to nitpick a budget that is unconscionable.
Can I just ask one more well, like, just a point of order, I guess. I completely understand that, and I think as someone who's worked in this district for now almost 20 years, I really do trust what's being brought forward by administration. I have a lot of faith in the people that help run our schools every day, but that being said, I just want to make sure it is ultimately, though, the board's decision, right? Okay.
Yes, we will be voting on it next meeting on April 6th.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Nick Hill, Jaffrey. Lot of sitting here tonight, a lot of confusion. We're talking about funding programs, like the suggestion that Christine made about preschool, pay for preschool, like Chris made, pay to play sports. And I've been told, and I think Carrie answered it tonight, that those are not feasible options based on the current structure of policies or the budget and or, am I right, Carrie? So we can't do pay to play sports and we can't do pay to go to kindergarten, pre-K.
All right, so.
There's just a lot of confusion around that, okay? I've been told so many different things. I'd like some clarification around that, please.
Good. Okay, so they're kind of, I don't mean that the activities and the preschool are two separate things. I mean, there are two separate things happening. So at the same time as we're trying to think of creative ways to be able to fund these in the future, it is not possible for us to plan that to protect this budget right now. So we cannot keep preschool staff on the hope that we will be able to fund it through private tuition. We cannot keep what athletics or transportation, let's say like that, on the hope that we're going to fundraise those funds. They have to be cut on April 6th if that's what this happens here. So it's timing. As we're looking forward, we're also watching other school districts and what they're doing. Policy is policy. So if changes need to happen, then that takes time. It can't happen by April 6th. Does that, yeah, so we are not throwing any options out the window. That's not, we can't. So we have to be incredibly creative. But we have a timing issue as far as people goes, any people especially. We have to have that decision done before April 15th.
Anybody else want to talk?
Lisa, do you mind?
No, please.
Yeah, and this is where I can be difficult. I think I'm one of those people that doesn't necessarily like to take, no for an answer, and I think that we need to be creative over the next 3 weeks and really hash these things out for the benefit of ourselves and for the community, right? What I'm hearing from Nick is confusion, and I think it's our job to clarify that. What I agree with, as far as what Lisa said there about positions, certainly I think that seems to make sense to me, that we can't fund a position and then hope it'll get paid for. That being said, things like referees, transportation, so I'll say non-staff uniforms, athletic costs. At this time right now, I don't understand why we couldn't, as I suggested last year and I'm suggesting again this year, possibly cut them from the budget, right? Maybe, and I think what I said last year was, we'll fund fall sports and winter sports, and when it comes to spring sports, figure out what that is and leave it up to the community to fund that. But technically, we'd only fund, this is just an example, right? 2/3 of the seasons, and then rely on the community, and right, there'd be time there, starting today, to raise that money. And given that the whole budget is, it's probably, even with staff, it's probably like $500,000 now, something like that. I mean, I think we'd be looking to fill a gap of, I don't know. I don't want to throw out a number, but that's a solution that I think is feasible and would allow us to, implement. I don't know whether you want to call it pay for play or not, but I think we need to think creatively about this and about the pre-K over the next few weeks. And I think what I'd appreciate is if people do have suggestions, you can email, we can talk, and we can't as a board, full board, meet, before then, but I think in my mind, and this happens, right? This isn't the only time we talk. We do get together in smaller groups where, three board members plus administrators can talk about these things, because I think the community is owed more than just a presentation, and that I think we need to hash these out somewhat publicly so that people understand what options are on the table. And I'm not saying I'm correct, by the way, in this proposal, but it's just something that the staff thing makes sense to me, the other part of it, and I know that so many other schools do it. I think it's worth it not to take another look at it and don't assume that we can't do something, especially when we have, we're taking this time. Or else what are we going to do for the next 3 weeks? Just nothing and then come back and approve the plan? We might as well just approve it now. So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Anybody else? No? All right, I guess I would be remiss if I didn't, because I did reach out to a couple of school board members, but I'd be remiss if I didn't make a mention of this. I know that it's challenging. I can only imagine how difficult it's going to be to work through all these options, and I hope that you give valid time, like to Ally's point. I mean, it was presented here tonight, and then 2 weeks from now, you guys are going to vote on it with no other communications or anything except for the small groups that Chris alluded to, which just blows my mind. But as work through these options, trying to preserve as many opportunities as possible for the students, including sports and other programs. Again, I'm sitting here, I see the presentation, and I'm sitting here selfishly because sports and activities are not being cut. However, like I said, I wanted to say what I had to say. With open enrollment approaching, I realize that there are many factors to consider. I want to respectfully share a few ideas that have come to mind as possible areas. One option, and again, I don't think that this is great, but here's an option to save some money and to maybe possibly bring back some of the other programs. One option might be focusing on offering varsity sports only through our school system. Middle school age kids or students could potentially access sports through local rec departments with coordination between the schools, rec departments, and families to ensure affordability and scholarship opportunities where needed. And then, of course, that fee thing gets brought in, and, you know, but these outside programs, I don't think that they need to be charged a fee. I'm sorry, I'm involved with a lot of them, particularly baseball, and I was the president the last 3 years, and every time I registered to get gym time, it was up over $10,000, and we're a nonprofit, and so I was very thankful that the board approved to waive those fees for our program. We have 535 kids in this area that are participating in that, by the way. So that's one of my options, varsity sports only. All right, I've crunched all the numbers, and it's a substantial savings, where you could bring back a pre-K, or part of pre-K. Might also be worth considering a part-time athletic director, possibly a teacher, who could take on responsibilities such as scheduling, coordinating officials, and transportation. It was done when I first started coaching in this district 27 years ago. The athletic director was a math teacher in this school district, and he had 2 periods assigned to doing all the scheduling. Now, granted, back then it was high school, and then they had an athletic director, part-time athletic director for middle school, but food for thought. And then lastly, again, and people might be mad at me, but reviewing administrative structure for potential efficiencies, including whether positions such as assistant superintendent role could be reconsidered, and it already has been reconsidered, but are there other administration possibilities there? And so I share these simply as thoughts from someone who cares about this school and this community. I've lived here for 48 years. I've got 2 children in this school. I love this school. I eat, sleep, breathe Conant, orange, and black. And I hope that we can find ways to move forward together during this really difficult time. Thanks.
All right. For board matters, are there further board matters? Okay. I'll be sending out an email for setting up a workshop day. I'll be setting up an email to set up an orientation time with Jared and with Ally. And at this time, we'll take a motion to enter into non-public. Okay.
This has been on my notes, and I just sort of spaced it, but field trips were not in the default budget, so will they have to continue to be funded through outside sources, or are they back in?
The intent is to put them back in, but we have, as you can imagine, this is a challenging thing to indicate whether we're going to be able to do that all the way through with staffing cuts. So again, wasn't a proposal, didn't include every concept. Field trips are necessary aspects of children's learning. We did have community members step up this year. That was great. We had unanticipated revenue that came in that the board accepted, and we were able to do that. And that's one way that the budget can be expended when there is that type of unanticipated revenue. But more conversations, and it certainly has to be part of this conversation as we go forward.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify.
These are major ticket items in a sense, big dollars as opposed to, smaller chunks here and there.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep.
I will make the motion to enter into non-public.